this week's Cruise Chat. I'm Kathleen Penner, owner of Plenty of Sunshine Travel, and today I'm joined by Beverly, and Beverly is from Regent Seven Seas Cruises. I've met with Beverly before, and if you want to go back and look at those episodes, it's episode 3, 15, and 27, and this is, of course, episode number 39, and as you can see, we're going to be covering Alaska. I'm super looking forward to hearing all about the Regent difference in Alaska, so over to you.
Thank you, Kathleen. It's always fun to be with you. I know many of your clients are starting to want to travel again, and whether they're ready to book or at least ready to dream, we're always happy to give them information so they can make great choices when the time comes. And when it comes to Alaska, I happen to be a firm believer in Regent being an amazing choice. I have worked in the cruise industry for many, many years and for several cruise lines, and have spent a lot of time in Alaska over that period of 25 years. And I have to say that I always get asked what my favorite destinations are, and Alaska's always up there. It really is. And it's funny because I think Canadians, because Alaska is perceived as being very much like Canada in terms of forests and water and mountains, which it is if you live in the West. I think for a lot of Canadians, it tends not to be on the top of their priority list for cruising. It's sort of one of those things that they'll get to at some point. But I'm here to kind of let you know that everybody who does go regrets not having done it sooner. So Alaska begins with A, so I'd make it at the beginning of your ABC list of travel for sure, because it certainly is spectacular. I think, first of all, obviously from the natural beauty, the wildlife, the marine life, the glacier activity, the activities that you can do are so amazing. And of course, you have not only some Canadian culture in there as you start off typically in Vancouver, you move up to the American interior, of course, in Alaska, then you also have some Russian influence because, of course, way back in history, Alaska actually belonged to it was part of Russia. So it's got an amazing cultural sort of slants to it. And then, of course, you have the whole gold rush aspect that is extremely, extremely exciting. And I would like to encourage people who are considering going, do get yourself a copy of James Michener's novel, Alaska. It is an amazing book that weaves true history into storytelling. And I found it one of the most enlightening books and interesting. And I think it helps if you read it before you go. It'll just bring the whole thing to life. So there's a little reading recommendation for you. What I would like to emphasize, first of all, is that, although many Alaska cruises are 7 nights in length, what we like to sort of plant the seed with people is that consider Alaska as a complete destination, both land and sea. Although cruises are extremely popular and we sell many, many of them, because of the size and scope of this great land, so much of what you might want to see is not done from the ocean. It's in the interior. I mean, if you only have to look at the map to see that. So adding a land extension, well, even if it's 3 or 4 days, or adding a Rocky Mountaineer experience, perhaps through the Rockies to link up, is also a way that you can enhance your experience. Alaska's a long way. If you were to look at the map of Canada and Alaska, and think about it in terms of how long it takes to get there, it will take you longer to get to Anchorage than it will to get to Europe from Toronto. Wow. It'll take you probably 9 hours in terms of flight. And then, of course, there is the 4-hour time change, I believe. So it's a long way. So for some people, think of it as an investment trip, a bucket list trip, a major trip where you take a cruise and you perhaps enhance it with that land experience. So, of course, doing that increases your cost a little bit. But again, think of it in terms of what you would spend on a European vacation. And then equate it that way rather than just a quick 7-night cruise that goes from Vancouver. So it's just shifting the way you kind of look at it. There's a lot of myths about Alaska too. I think when I've talked to people over the years, number one is the weather's awful. It's cold up there. I love this one of the bear sunbathing. Looks like he's got a full belly. It can actually be hotter up in Anchorage in August than it is here. So if you look at the weather patterns, it's not necessarily cold. Now, obviously the ships don't sail there once you get into, October through April, of course, but definitely in the summer months, it can be very, very hot. So you do want to bring your bathing suit. You can be sitting on the deck of the ship, enjoying the swimming pool and the hot tubs, just like these people are doing, or like the bear is doing here. So definitely it doesn't have to be cold. The other myth is that a lot of people think that Alaska is for old folks. Oh, it's one of those old folks destinations where you just sit on deck and you look at the glaciers. And that's completely untrue.
Right.
Granted, it's a good destination for people of all agilities, but a lot of the activities are available, extremely active, whether it's, zip lining or hiking, going on these, sort of forest trails or canoeing, kayaking, glacier walking. There's so many active activities that you can do in addition to the more sedate ones. So it's actually a wonderful destination for any age group, including children.
Yes.
And that's the other thing is grandparents are always, especially today, I find, looking for destinations that they could treat their family to create those memories together. They call them ski vacations, spending your kids' inheritance vacations. And so I think, initially perhaps people thought, just, well, my kids are going to be bored on a cruise, but you know what? Not at all. In Alaska in particular, so many of the activities I think are enthralling for kids of all age groups because there's so much to see. It is about the experience, whether it's seeing a sea lion or a whale breach next to the ship or going gold panning. I mean, what could be more fun than that? And of course, creating those memories with parents and grandparents. So as I mentioned with Regent, we have a few different itineraries. The ships typically reposition up to the Alaska season in the spring, usually at the beginning of May. So our repositioning cruise up there in 2022, and I should preface this by saying 2021, the season, although it hasn't completely been canceled, I think it's very likely that it will be because, of course, due to the nasty COVID, Mr. Trudeau has banned ships basically from coming into Canadian waters, which kind of negates the season because Vancouver is such an important part. So I'm not going to talk about 21, although it hasn't canceled completely. I think 22 is probably a better bet for people. So the first sailing in 21 actually starts from San Francisco. It's a 13-night voyage, and it moves up to Vancouver. What I love about this cruise, especially for Canadians from the East, perhaps they might enjoy an experience in California first, having a chance to spend some time in San Francisco. You could even fly into Los Angeles. You could drive up to San Francisco, enjoy the whole coastline, Santa Barbara, do something in addition to the cruise if you wanted, hop on the ship in San Francisco, call in Astoria, and also in Victoria, which not all the Alaska cruises do. Typically, they only get down that far at the beginning and end of the season. So this, I think, is a great itinerary, and it's a couple of weeks long, which is fun. If you're going to travel from the Eastern Canada all the way over, again, it's an investment trip, right? So, so I think this is a fun one. We have a 30-year emblem on this itinerary because next year is our 30th year of operation. And so this 30th anniversary season, there are 30 different voyages where we are offering our past guests, our repeat guests, double what we call society savings. When you are a past guest on many voyages, we offer special discounts. So for these 30 voyages, there's actually double that discount.
Wow.
So you'll see many of our cruises have that. So yeah, so this is a great itinerary, having the West Coast as well, Victoria, as well as highlights in Alaska.
So that's nice that it's your birthday, but we get the gift. So perfect.
There you go. That's a really nice birthday gift, isn't it? So,
it is.
Now, then what happens is the ship then repositions based in Vancouver and Seward. Seward is the port for Anchorage. So 1 week, the ship will sail northbound from Vancouver to Seward. And then the next week, she'll cruise southbound from Seward to Vancouver. 7-night voyages. We do have clients who will actually stay on back-to-back, the 7 and the 7. The itineraries are in essence the same, but I think what happens is you get a round trip 14-night cruise. You can then say fly in and out of Vancouver, which is easy for people. And it also gives you a chance to enjoy multiple experiences in each port, because we do include the shore excursions, which is a huge benefit for traveling with Regent. At this point, I think we're the only cruise line that includes such a vast array of them in every port of call. This is something that we've done for many years now. So this itinerary includes, Seward ultimately, and this cruise starts in Seward. So that's the port of Anchorage. So you'd fly into Anchorage, sail from Seward, takes you about an hour and a half to get to Seward from Anchorage, and cruising down to the Hubbard Glacier, which is a very interesting glacier, which I'll talk about in a little while, and calling in Juneau, which is the capital of Alaska, and an interesting place because it's completely surrounded by mountains. So the only way to get in and out is by float plane. So they say it's a bad place to rob a bank. So you're not going to get out unless you have a float plane or a boat. So, and then Skagway, which of course was the start of the seat of gold rush, and coming down through Puna to Ketchikan, down the Inside Passage to Vancouver. So it's a wonderful 7-night itinerary. It starts the middle of May through the middle of September. Or as I said, you could do a back-to-back and make it a 14-night. Then at the end of the season, we reposition back down again on September 21st from Vancouver down to Los Angeles this time. So again, you're going to have the Alaska portion first from Vancouver up the Inside Passage, then down back, calling in Victoria, Astoria, to San Francisco as a port of call, ending in Los Angeles. And then after that, the ship actually does some Mexican Riviera cruises. So again, this is a 30-year anniversary sailing. So you have this voyage as an alternative, and you could even stay on for the next cruise to Mexico if you wanted. So those are in essence, and that's an overview of the itineraries themselves. And as I mentioned, Alaska is a doing vacation. It's not one of these cruises where you just sort of get off the ship and buy the t-shirt and say you've been to Ketchikan. You cannot not do things, because to enter into the true Alaskan spirit, to become what they call a sourdough, which is a true Alaskan, you've got to be baptized. I mean, you've got to go on a salmon bake, to the lumberjack show, to go gold panning, to go glacier tromping. All these things are so important. And typically what a lot of clients have said to me over the past is that when they've done an Alaska cruise on other cruise lines, they come home with an extraordinary large bill, because the excursions are not inexpensive. And so the fact that Regent includes all the excursions on this, on a 7-night sailing, is up to 58 free excursions, which means you're going to have a choice in every port. There'll be some, half-day ones, 3/4-day ones. You can often do a couple of different things in each day. So the excursions that we include would sell for around $200 US a person, or per tour on other cruise lines. So it does make quite a difference. Now, it's not that you're not paying for them, but because they're packaged in, and because we do receive excellent breaks on prices from the tour operators because of the volume business we do, it does make it quite attractive. And just to know it's all in. You can start booking these excursions as early as 350 days before sailing. That's almost a year out. Wow. So we're actually right now we're coming up to you being able to book May 2022 very, very soon. So it's a very important part of the Regent value proposition. So what kind of excursions can you expect? As I said, it's a doing vacation, and you're definitely going to be spoiled for choice. What I do is I kind of recommend looking at every port of call, because there could be some experiences that could be similar. For example, in Skagway, it's all about gold rush. So you might be tempted perhaps to do the gold panning experience in Skagway, but you can also gold pan from Juneau. But what you can't do from Juneau is the White Pass Railroad scenic train. So for me, I again prioritize the White Pass Scenic Railroad. Definitely for me would be the ultimate, because you literally do travel about 20 miles. You go up about 3,000 feet. You literally come back and touch the Yukon on this trek. The diesel engine sort of shunts you the first part of the way, and then the original sort of steam engine then picks up. So you can make this trek in a few hours, and you are literally following the path of the gold rushers. And in some cases, when you pass Hurricane Gulch, for example, and you look down, you can see where a lot of their horses and mules actually met their death. They fell down these precipices, you know, loaded up with all the gear that the gold rushers needed. So, and of course, there's a wonderful commentary as you go up, and then on the way back, you're left to enjoy the scenery. So that to me is a definite priority. And this tour would be several $100s on other cruise lines. If you've done that before, you want something different, then I love the Ghosts and Good Time Girls historic walking tour. That's a really fun thing.
That's
Again,
a
you've
catchy
got
name. Yeah.
you do. Everybody in Skagway, a lot of them are dressed in period costume. So you really feel like you've stepped back into time, which is very fun. And then, of course, if you're feeling adventurous, there's the rock climbing and rappelling adventure. But definitely the White Pass Scenic Railroad to me is an interesting way to spend the day. And again, for all age groups, just introducing the idea to kids and grandkids of the kind of arduous conditions that people underwent in order to try and make their fortunes in Alaska. Sitka is a really interesting port because this is where you really find the Russian influence. Again, as I mentioned earlier, Russia was part of Alaska was part of Russia, so you do have some Russian cultural aspects to this place. All the onion-shaped dome churches, which are very interesting. There's also a beautiful artist walk, hot Italian glass excursion. So if you enjoy glass making, a bit of artisan experience. But then one of the things I love to do here is the kayaking or going to see the otters because they're so cute. So there's lots of different choices in Sitka as well. The kayaking adventures for the active are very popular. You're actually taken away from the town into pods where you go exploring. So this is an excellent place to do some kayaking if you are more active. So Ketchikan is one of the most fun ports in Alaska. It's become a little commercial as a lot of places have, especially what used to be the red light district. This is known as the Creek Street district now, and it's literally an area that's built over stilts. It was the red light district because it was the first place that the sailors and people used to hit when they got off the boat. So there's actually Miss Dolly's house is still there, and the sign outside it says Dolly's house where both men and salmon came upstream to spawn. So it's true. And I think it used to be $1. There's a sign outside still. So again, that's all part of the cultural heritage of life back in Alaska back in the early 1900s. Definitely here, I would recommend if you're interested in the totem aspect, going to see the totem traditions. Potlatch Park is interesting. See these amazing totem poles. But the Satsman Native Village and Lumberjack Show is probably one of the most fun. So I mean, this has some very authentic aspects to it, of course, as you see the lumberjacks, the way they literally walk on the logs, but it's been created for entertainment. So it's a really wonderful way to spend the afternoon. And you have to be careful, you can get splashed. It's like going to Marineland. If you're sitting too close, you can get wet on this one. So watching the lumberjacks perform is really quite a lot of fun. So I would encourage that for the afternoon. In Juneau, as I said, Juneau is the capital of Alaska, and again, it has more float planes per capita than it does cars because it's the only way in and out is to fly or go by boat. Salmon bakes are very popular here. Walking over to the Mendenhall Glacier. Juneau has its own glacier, which I don't think there's any other cities in the world that can claim that. So you can actually walk on it. I would encourage that definitely. The whale quest is also very important. And you can also go gold panning from this port of call as well, which I highly recommend. It's one of the most fun things to do. Of course, Gold Rush is really what established Alaska. So being able to go to the Gold Creek and to be shown by prospectors the techniques and how to pan for gold, and they guarantee you find some. Maybe not
Cool.
quite as big as the nugget on the right, but
Right.
the last time I did it, I came home with some dust. I have it in a little
Little
bottle
baggie.
still. So yeah, so it's just a very authentic experience, being
Mhm.
able, there's quite a technique to it. So definitely something I think all ages find fun, but definitely the kids, grandkids would get into this as well. So with all these complimentary excursions that are available to our guests are incredible. There are some other experiences that we can't include because they would be several $100s, $300, $400, $500 a person perhaps.
Mhm.
And these would be things like, float plane rides over to glaciers where you land and learn how to dog bush with huskies. These
Mhm.
are extraordinary experiences, but again, are too much for us to include for everybody. The good
Mhm.
news is that we do subsidize these. So
Right.
the clients will never pay what the retail price is. And if you have a shipboard credit, as you are able to offer on many sailings
Yes.
because of
Mhm.
your affiliation with Virtuoso, etc., you can use those shipboard credits to pay for some of these over and above extraordinary
Mhm.
experiences. So there are three different glacier experiences available on the Regent cruises. Mendenhall Glacier, which I mentioned, is within the city limits of Juneau, so that you could walk to or go by shore excursion. Also Tracy Arm Fjord, which you can also do by excursion. Hubbard Glacier is the glacier experience that you have from the ship. And this is one of the most extraordinary Alaskan experiences you can have, as the captain maneuvers the ship as close as possible to this
Mhm.
glacier. You are witness to what they call calving, which
Mhm.
is when massive chunks of ice can fall off the face of the glacier, literally in front of the ship.
Wow.
It starts with almost like a rifle crack sound in the air. And that's how you know that something is happening. You can see this, even the small chunks of ice start to fall off. And that's usually an indication that something big is going to follow. And in some cases, the glacier's calving can be as big as your house. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So again, to be able to bear witness to that
Mhm.
and have children, grandchildren, even to be able to see that is something special.
Yeah.
Now, Hubbard Glacier is particularly interesting because it is known as the Galloping Glacier. As many people probably realize, glaciers are moving every day, every
Mhm.
year, several feet. Well, the Hubbard Glacier experienced what was called catastrophic advancement. It made a major shift
Mm.
in one particular day. This is several years ago now. So it was named the Galloping Glacier because it galloped in this one day. And what happened was this gallop created a damming where a lot of marine life was trapped,
Mm.
and a lot of naturalists and marine biologists went to help to try break the dam so it could
Mhm.
save the marine life. So people in Alaska say that it was actually kind of a bit of a mystical experience, that it was almost a miracle because this dam did break. They're saying now that it is going to happen again, that by 2040, the
Mhm.
Hubbard Glacier will actually have completely dammed the area once more. So
Wow.
it's really quite interesting, but
Mhm.
spectacular. So seeing these glaciers from the ship, and then perhaps if you have the chance to take one of the airplane tours to see them from above, where
Mhm.
you can see the path, how they've worked their way through the mountains down to the water, is really quite something.
Yeah,
So
that's something you won't forget. That's amazing. Yeah.
you don't. And I have to say, the first time I went to Alaska, I decided to splurge, and I was a lot younger back then. I had a pretty hefty mortgage and a little baby, and I
Mhm.
thought, oh my gosh, 300. At that point, it was $300 to do one of these,
Yeah.
sort of helicopter plane tours.
Mhm.
And I decided to do it because I realized at the end of the day that what I would remember was that experience. And if you amortize that over your life, what is it?
Yes.
So I would encourage people to budget, save up a bit more,
Mhm.
take the plunge, and do one of the airplane experiences, because again, just it gives you the total perspective of the glaciers from the air, which is
Mhm.
very different from the sea. And the photo opportunities in Alaska are so amazing, both of the wildlife and the natural life, the culture, the history, and of course the glaciers. So
Yeah,
it's a magical place.
it
That's for
is.
sure. Now, to complement the cruise, we have amazing enrichment on board. One of our most well-loved onboard naturalists is a lady called Terry Breen. She has two parts of the world that she's absolutely nuts about, so passionate, South America and Alaska. And so on many of our voyages, we feature Terry, and she has this in-depth knowledge of Alaska, from the history, the culture, to the wildlife. And she really brings it alive with her daily commentaries on the television, on the ship, about each port of call. And then she has special programs that she does. So she has, usually she's got 3 or 4 different programs. So she'll do one session about the geography, history, wildlife, culture. Then she focuses on the Native American history, of course, the Tlingits, culture and history. She talks in one session about the glaciers, what it is, how it shapes the landscape. And then she also has a session about anchorage and another program she calls The Devil Beneath the Sea. So she's got several different programs that are amazingly enlightening, and she's there to enhance the cruise. So I think you can see how it is a destination and an experience that can create amazing memories. I've talked a lot about grandkids and kids, and people often don't think about Regent Seven Seas as being a family-oriented cruise line because it is considered to be luxury and high quality. But I mean, a lot of our clients who are in their 50s, 60s, 70s and older, they've reached the point in their life where they want to travel in a quality environment. And so just why shouldn't their family be brought into that as well? So although most of our guests are over 55, in Alaska in particular, we do see during the summer months more families and grandchildren, children than we would normally. So we do program for them. We have something called Club Mariner, which does cater to kids, between 5 and 17. We have counselors on board most of our Alaska sailings, so they have activities for them, and a lot of it is themed to the destination. So there are specials as low as $9.99 US for kids that include the excursions. So again,
and that's
just
a
food
phenomenal
for
price
thought.
when you see the value that you're getting in that. That's wonderful.
Absolutely, for the cruise alone. But again, they can do all the tours, they can drink all the pop they want, they can do, all the hot dogs they want, if that's what they want. And it also gives them an introduction to a more adult experience, and they are included in things, which is quite wonderful. So.
Yes.
I'd mentioned earlier that there are land programs that can go with the cruises. So Regent does offer several. If you're looking for something very extensive, that could be something that you, Kathleen, I know could put together. But if you're looking for 3-4 nights, Regent has some interesting programs that either focus on the Vancouver area. Perhaps if you haven't spent any time out west, you might want to do 3 nights in Vancouver, including Whistler. And of course, we have some excellent, unique excursions included in that. We do have our relationship with the Rocky Mountaineer that allows clients to add that experience in the luxurious Gold Leaf service, which is kind of synonymous with the level of cruise experience we offer. So that could be something that could be added on. That one is a 6-night program from Vancouver. And that, of course, is going to include, luxurious hotels. The hotel in Kamloops, we have the best that's available, but we can't, in all honesty, say it's a luxury hotel, but we don't have a lot of choice there.
Yes.
But the other 5 nights will definitely, in Vancouver and Banff, will be at luxurious hotels and with the Gold Leaf service, etc. So it's quite a wonderful way to complement the Regent experience on the ship. And then when you get up to Alaska, we have some opportunities to experience inland, which is really where you're going to see most of the wildlife. From the ship, you tend to see the marine life, but the bears and the goats and the moose tend not to come down to see you on the ship, so you have to go to them. So if that's what you're looking for, we do recommend taking perhaps a 4-night package to discover Denali, which would include deluxe hotels, trains, transfer tours, and many of your meals. So that's another thing that you can do. So lots of options, depending on, where you want your focus to be and how much independence you want to your experience. So I do get a fair number of commonly asked questions when I do a live presentation. So I thought I'd maybe just anticipate those now and answer them. One of them is, when is the best time to go to Alaska?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the season is relatively short. It's early May to the middle of September.
Mm-hmm.
Within that time frame, there certainly are changes in weather. But I think when you say best, you have to figure out, what do you mean by this? Is it the best? What's the best weather? What's the best time to see whales? What's the best time to see wildlife, flowers? Because it really depends on what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
From a weather perspective, July is probably the best, or early August. But again, it's very changeable there. So you can't rely on whether it can be, sort of foggy in the morning and, 90 degrees in the afternoon. So
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to figure out what you're looking for. If you're looking for the best wildlife viewing, or I guess marine life, humpback whales, that tends to be in August.
Mm-hmm.
That's when the migrations happen. If you're looking for the most flowers, then that tends to be in May, just as life is coming to get, nature's coming alive.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking for the best wildlife in terms of bears and moose and things, then the spring is when you have all the babies been born. But again, you tend to see more when you go inland.
Mm-hmm.
People ask me, does it get dark? Well, the more north you get, the more daylight hours there are. And then, of course, you have the summer solstice.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're up in Anchorage, Fairbanks, Denali, you're going to be able to tow sunset and sunrise all in the same hour. So, which is kind of a cool experience.
It is, yeah.
And so in terms of clothing, if you relate it back to the weather, I think layers are always the best advice. The earlier in the season, the cooler, could be foggy, or you could get a bit of rain, same in the latter part. But I think definitely a good windbreaker, few different sweatshirts, pair of warm leggings or jeans. I mean, it's a very casual destination during the day. And then, of course, when you're on the ship in the evening, you can dress nicely. So definitely layers and gloves and a hat just in case. So there's some of the commonly asked questions.
Yeah.
So why Regent to Alaska versus the numerous cruise lines that do go there? We've already talked about the inclusion of the short excursions, which is important. But I think one thing that I think is really critical is, you don't want to be on a mega ship. You want to be on a smallish, intimate ship that can get in to ports of call easily, can get you on and off the ship easily. So in 2022, our Seven Seas Mariner will be conducting the Alaska season, and she only has 700 guests maximum. So 350 suites, spacious, all balconies. So you have the opportunity to view the scenery all the time from your own balcony, even without going up on deck if you want.
Right.
We plan our Alaska season departing usually on a Wednesday as opposed to the weekend. And we do that deliberately because Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday tend to be when a lot of the mega ships are departing. So I'm not going to promise we won't ever be in a port with a large ship, but being there with one or two is very different than being there with six. So that Wednesday disembarkation is very deliberate for us, so that we're off rotation a little bit.
And especially being there with 6 ships that hold 5,000 people each. I mean,
well,
that's
exactly,
makes a huge difference on your experience on
Sure,
on
it does.
shore.
And even embarking in Vancouver or Seward, to be fighting for embarkation space, so we do plan that quite deliberately. Definitely the free and limited excursions gives you the opportunity to be immersed in the destination. The shipboard credits that we offer to you for your clients can be used to purchase the upgraded excursions, which I'd mentioned. The enrichment that we offer, Terry Breen and the other colleagues that she brings on board sometimes are phenomenal. They really bring the destination to life. And I think in terms of value, the fact that it is so inclusive is really quite phenomenal. Then, of course, you have the overall quality of the accommodation, the service, and the spectacular food, which is unrivaled. So Regent is still, in the cruise industry, the most inclusive cruise line in any destination. So that goes for Alaska as well. So just to recap, we do include economy air from Vancouver, Toronto, or Montreal. So if you're living in any of those vicinities and you would use those gateways, you don't pay anything extra for your air. If you buy a concierge level or higher, that's a category D or E, depending on the ship, we fly you in the night before the cruise starts. So you have that wonderful, relaxing first night, not
Yes.
worrying about jet lag or your luggage, or wake up, have a beautiful breakfast, and then arrive at the ship in a very civilized fashion. All suite accommodation, as I mentioned, on all our ships, but in Alaska, having all those all suites and the balconies is so important. We do include all the fine wines, spirits, and all beverages, alcoholic and non. You know, smoothies, milkshakes, hot chocolates. Imagine when you're in Hubbard Glacier in Alaska, how nice it is to have a Bailey's and hot chocolate at no additional charge, keep you warm. And of course, all the dining, all the specialty dining included. I mean, the Alaskan king crab legs and sirloin steak are to die for. And you know, having your in-suite dining included, being able to order dinner on your balcony, perhaps if it is the summer solstice, you know, have dinner there. Wouldn't that be wonderful at no charge? Gratuities are included, taxes. In this post-COVID environment, we are going to be including free valet laundry services, so you won't have to do your own laundry at all. The laundromats that we have on board are still there, but you can send out your laundry yourself. It'll be done for you. And again, the excursions in each port. So this goes for every destination, but again, really important in Alaska.
Yes.
We, as you've seen before, some of your clients have, we do create comparison charts to show people the comparative value of Regent compared to other cruise lines. This particular chart is focused on Alaska. I'm going to draw the attention of your customers to the first column, the Seven Seas Explorer, which is that this is a chart actually based on this current year, but the concept could be carried out through next year. And then I'm going to look at the column on the far right. Many of the clients who are coming to Regent for the first time are coming to us from what we call premium cruise lines, which would be companies like Celebrity, Holland America, Princess. And so they're kind of looking to see what the value proposition, the prices that we offer initially are going to look a lot higher than those cruise lines. And that sometimes can scare people, really, because they don't understand what they're getting for their money. So just to look at this example, a 7-night voyage on Regent in US dollars, $72.49. We can convert that to Canadian. It would be around 9,000 Canadian. The other cruise lines are promoting around 3,900 US. So obviously, you know, almost half. And that can lead people to perhaps not book Regent. The idea is that you have to think of the total value when you're looking at larger accommodation, air inclusive pricing, which we have, but they don't. So now you have to get to the ship. Ground transfers we include, they're going to add it. Shore excursions, which I'd mentioned. To be honest with you, this number is very low. We haven't set this up to make ourselves look good. I truly believe in Alaska, you are going to spend at least $1,000 a person if you're doing it right. You are.
I think it's about, you know, $300-400 a port. So yeah, but
well, it can be absolutely. So yeah, I think that's very light in this case. Wi-Fi. So I guess they're figuring maybe some of the cruise line are throwing in a few, but certainly not all of them. Wi-Fi we include, they don't. The gratuities typically they don't. The bar drinks, wine, alternative dining, etc. So what happens is when you add up everything they don't include on top of the initial fee, what you'll find is that the charge that these other cruise lines have for comparable accommodation ends up being very similar to Regent, but yet definitely not at that luxury category. They're very good, but not definitely offering the space that we offer on board, the level of service and the dining experiences. So interesting that you probably could have been on Regent for about the same all along. So definitely thought-provoking. And when you consider, as I said, the ship that we operate there in 2022, the Mariner, 700 guests, 350 suites, all balcony. She is an extraordinary vessel, offers a ton of space for people, which is interesting. I mean, no shortage of deck space, beautiful chaise lounges with the deep cushions, your own towel. You don't have to schlep your towel from your suite. It's there rolled up for you. You know, whether it's on top of the deck, around the pool, you've got lots of areas from which to view the glaciers and the wildlife and the marine life. The pool, as I mentioned, the hot tubs, which are just as important in Alaska. You can definitely enjoy the glaciers. Your pool grill for outdoor dining. You have a mini putt there. you have a sports court, you have all the facilities inside to enjoy if you're not wanting to be outside, from card rooms to the beautiful library, the atrium, different lounges to enjoy a cocktail, a coffee, casino, the internet lounge. So again, the ship may be smaller, but it still has all the things that larger ships have, just scaled down, even full evening entertainment. So after dinner, you have full production shows or movies or crew talent shows. So the smaller ship does not mean you're sacrificing.
Absolutely.
But definitely the dining experience are sublime on Regent. The choices are phenomenal. On the ship, you have 2 specialty restaurants. You have Prime 7, which won the best steak and seafood house at sea. We have this iconic restaurant on all of our ships, and this is where you're going to enjoy your Alaskan king crab and sirloin steak and all kinds of things. You also have a French restaurant on board, and an outdoor dining area, La Veranda, an Italian restaurant, and the main dining room. So just to
That
make you
piece of cake
hungry.
that you just showed there, wow, that looked amazing. I was like,
that's the
whoa.
chocolate cake in Prime 7. Isn't that amazing? So,
That's amazing.
and this is the just to tease you with the part of the evening menu in Prime 7. And what's interesting is that you can literally order what you like and create if you want. I mean, a lot of people will, you know, they want that veal tomahawk chop, but they've got to have Alaskan king crabs with it. So of course you can have whatever you like and build your dinner. It's a phenomenal experience, as all the dining venues are. So looking for something more casual during the day, the La Veranda is the buffet. In the post-COVID environment, it will be served. It will not be self-service. What I love about La Veranda, it doesn't feel like a cafeteria like it does on some ships. You know, the tables are set with linens and china, the carpet. So it's a casual area for breakfast and lunch. And in the evening, we turn it into an Italian restaurant, Sette Mari at La Veranda. And we also set the tables outside. So if it's a nice evening, you're going to be able to dine outside as well.
Beautiful.
And then, of course, being on our ships with so many balconies, oversized balconies, which we're also known for, it's just a lovely way to enjoy any destination, to have a cocktail or a breakfast or lunch or dinner in the privacy of your own suite. So we do offer all suites. What you're not seeing here is the oversized bathroom, which we're known for as well, and the walk-in closet, which almost all our suites have. So this is almost roughing it on Regent, if you can consider. This would be the smallest suite on the Mariner. And imagine that. The beds are to die for. Ladies, you also have a vanity table area just outside the bathroom. So you have a place to do your hair and makeup without being in the living area or in the bathroom, which is astonishing. Beautiful. If you're looking for a little more space, one of my favorite suites on the Mariner is the penthouse. It does offer this oversized amount of open space. And this is often a place where a grandparent might, you know, sort of add a grandchild. We have rollaway beds or pull-out couches in some of our suites. This is in particular a pretty nice room to have another family member in with you. So I highly recommend penthouses on the Mariner. And then something a little larger if you're looking to go up. Again, depending on what your budget is, how you like to travel, we have accommodation, all suites for every budget. So I have about 35% of our clients are retired. So many of them are empty nesters, still have one foot in their businesses or career, but they tend to have a common bond in terms of like-mindedness. They're interested in culture, history. They love great food. They love great wine, and they want to travel with like-minded people. So most of them have cruised before, and they do consider themselves to be travelers or explorers versus tourists. So I think, but we get a really interesting mix of clients on board. You know, anybody from a retired teacher to a retired entertainment lawyer or a retired prima ballerina. I've met many different people. So very, very interesting folks. Obviously right now, just to kind of wrap up, sailing safely is on the top of everybody's mind currently. And although we have not announced a return to sailing yet this year, we are working on our plan, and we're getting very close. Obviously, in conjunction with the CDC and all the protocols that are being demanded, our goal is to exceed any protocols. So we do have an area on our website that will have all the updates, but I think you can assume that it will include socially distanced embarkation, disembarkation, less guests on our ship initially, disinfection areas, vaccinations will be required to board, both for crew and for guests. I think that's something we can assume. But we will not return to sea until we are very confident. In fact, our chairman said he will not put any of our ships back in the water until he would feel comfortable having his 18-month-old grandchild or his 100-year-old grandmother sailing. Okay. So I think that's a great testament. Yeah. Yes. So I think that's a good thing too. He's that serious. He said, you don't need to be the first. But again, remembering that the size of ships that we offer, this is kind of a funny picture because, I think you really get the sense of the size of Regent. And now the larger cruise lines might say, well, you know what? A large ship means more space, but it doesn't mean more space per guest. And I think that's the most important thing. When you look at the perfectly sized ships that we have in our fleet all over the world, I think people can really sense how easy it is to get on and off. And we truly do offer an unrivaled amount of space for our guests, so they can be guaranteed of having more space than they would on a larger ship. A much more civilized and comfortable way to travel, especially in the post-COVID environment. So you can cruise in 2022 from just over 8,000 Canadian a person. Again, keeping it in perspective, as I said, the distances you're traveling, the amount of inclusions. What is attracting people to Regent is the fact that any deposit you make is completely refundable, minus $125, which is really nothing in the whole scheme of things. Even we have a small non-refundable portion is having smaller ships. We want to be sure that people are somewhat serious about going. We can't afford to have people just booking and booking, knowing that they can change their mind up until a few months before. So that small amount does really reserve you the option to go. If you're not 100% sure, you have up until 121 days prior to sailing on a 7-night voyage. And even if you did cancel inside that and lost part of your deposit, hopefully insurance would cover that. But if you're even out 125, we will turn that into a future cruise credit for you. Oh,
wonderful. So, yes.
And again, just think about the demand on sailings right now. And I know it sounds like a sales pitch. It's really not. There is the biggest enemy of cruising with us next year is scarcity. We have sailings that are sold out already all across the globe, from exotic cruises to Alaska to Europe. So right now it's about buying yourself the option to travel, even if you're not 100% sure, knowing that you have these flexible policies to at least give yourself the choice. Right. So that's kind of my closing comment on that. And I'm glad that I got the chance to talk a bit about Alaska. Hopefully you can tell, I think it's one of the most extraordinary destinations. I could talk forever about it. And I think it really is something that everybody should have high on their list, as opposed to down somewhere near the bottom. So thank you for the opportunity.
I think Alaska is one of the best places to travel to, and having the difference with Regent of all those shore excursions is just a deal breaker. It's amazing. Like, you want to make sure that you take advantage of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kathleen, thank you again. And if your clients have any questions further, then by all means, you know where to find me. Happy to answer those questions.
Well, thank you so much for putting all that together. That's wonderful.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure. Take care.
Have a great week, everybody.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Hey, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this week's cruise chat with Beverly from Regent Seven Seas. It is phenomenal to see all the value that they have on their cruises, especially in Alaska. I know the shore excursions in Alaska can run you $300-400 a port per person. And you really want to see all those great immersive experiences. And it's wonderful that they're all included. If you enjoyed this week's cruise chat, remember to like and subscribe to our channel. And remember to hit that share button as well. That means a ton to me that you can do that. Next week, I'm going to be meeting with Carl from Silver Seas, and we're going to be going over some of their expedition cruises that they have. It's kind of neat how on our channel, I have river cruises, ocean, small ship, big ship, and expedition. So we really do cover them all. So I hope you're enjoying all the content that we do. I also post daily on our Facebook page, Facebook and Instagram. They're both Plenty of Sunshine Travel, so be sure to check those out. Also, you can schedule with me a 15-minute one-on-one consultation just to go over what you want in your next vacation, next cruise vacation. It's just a short 15-minute, and it doesn't take much time, and I get to work planning your cruise for you. Thank you so much for watching, everybody, and have a great week. Bye.